Level up. It's time to do that. Life and career. But in order to level up, we want to talk to some game changers who are doing just that. So, coming to join us today are a few leaders, game changers, and their names are Meshach Cleary, leadership and career coach. We have Jalen Garrison, HR professional. And we also have Nana Badu, who's a style coach of Badu Basics, and Dalton Gooding, CEO of Suitable. I was just rolling through that. We had to catch up on the PowerPoint. Thank you so much. So welcome everyone. So excited to talk to all of you. How are we feeling today?
Feeling
Come on
great.
up. Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
Got
yes.
some great news today, so feeling wonderful.
Yes. So we're on a 10. On a scale of 10 to 10, we at a 10.
All the way, all the way, all the way.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So just to hop in, because everyone here wants to talk about leveling up and how can we do that. So I kind of want to get in here first with a question that I have, and here it is. What are the factors that some of you weighed, or which ways were most influential to you that made your decisions in regards to your path? Historically marginalized communities, what examples were you weighing to get to where you are today in your journey? And for anyone that wants to hop in there.
I can hop in. I was trying to wait for the ladies to speak up first, but
Gentlemen.
I don't want the awkward silence for so long. So I'll hop in just really quick to try to answer that question. First of all, while I do career coaching and leadership coaching, I also lead a global team in an industrial manufacturing company. And so for the last 20 years, I kind of grew up in manufacturing supply chain and have run, led hundreds of people in different organizations. And for me, I was very intentional from the beginning of my career. And I made some decisions early on that I was gonna spend the first 10 years of my career on really prioritizing that and sacrificing, some of my personal life. And so I moved around the country, lived in many different states during that time, probably about 7 in the first 14 years of my career. But the advantage to that was that I was working for a large corporation, and there were more opportunities because I was willing to relocate and go in different places. I grew up in Bronx, New York, and my family was in New York. These are places in the middle of nowhere in many instances, that I wasn't necessarily used to culturally. Didn't know anyone in those places. But I was very intentional about making sure I was going to go pursue those opportunities and maybe sacrifice discomfort or sacrifice some of those personal things to be able to go get that. So, that was a decision that I made. As I started to have conversations with other people earlier in their careers, I would kind of just tell them, hey, look, I look at it as just 3 different things. You have work, you have life, and you have sleep. And you're likely going to sacrifice, one of those things. It's almost impossible to get a perfect balance. I sacrificed sleep because I did like to have fun. I was in my 20s, and I wanted to work really hard. The advice that I would just give is be intentional about the thing that you're going to sacrifice, because you're going to sacrifice something. So you're better off being intentional about it and being comfortable with the outcomes of that.
All right, dropping gems, Meshach. Be intentional. You're going to sacrifice something. Okay. Who else can chime in, tag team here on this question?
I'll chime in. So I think for me, when I first started my professional career, I graduated from college and I entered the corporate space, and I was doing management consulting for IBM, supporting like all government agencies. So a lot of the spaces I was walking into, it was like Nana Badu on the resume. What we gonna get in person? You already know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get this African American woman, right? And so I think for me, there was a point in the career where I realized the strength was in what made me different. And so I started to really lean into what separated me from my counterparts, which were predominantly white, white young male and female professionals, but especially as it related to the government space and a lot of the clients, it was predominantly white and male. So I definitely reached a point where I had to make kind of a decision around, do I show up as Nana and like give you all of it? Do I give you the energy? Do I come with the head wrap? Do I break it? Or, do I kind of quiet a little bit of myself, right? Like, do I check a little bit of my culture and my Blackness and my voice, because of how I might be perceived or how others might relate to me or how it might circumvent my career. And, it's not an easy decision, and you do have to express some level of discernment depending on what spaces and places you are in. But for me, I definitely, I feel, Meshach, on the intentionality of that in making a decision to lean into what makes me unique. And so that's my energy and my culture.
Yes,
Can
thank
I
you so
build on that
much.
a little bit?
Yeah, let's keep growing.
Yeah, look, I think that that's a great point, and actually, made me think of another piece of it. When I was going to school, I paid for college myself. I was actually living off campus my first 2 years. I moved on campus because it was free because I became an RA, right? So money was a big factor. Honestly, even going to school for engineering, I actually considered going to school for psychology, and money helped influence that. Fortunately, both of those things were interesting to me, and I thought I was pretty good at both of them, and I think I made a good decision. But I say all of that to say, as I reflected on it, what I find out is, you basically come out of school, you start thinking about money, because you start making money, you start spending more money, right? Your expenses get more, you make more money, and then you get to a place where you oftentimes many people lose sight of what they were actually passionate about or what they were pursuing. And it starts to become very difficult to make those sacrifices to shift back to something you might be passionate about, because now you've created this life that is more reliant on money than maybe you needed when you were in college or prior to college. And so I know there's a wider range of folks that are listening, but what I would say is, as much as you can, try to stay as connected to what you're passionate about as possible. And the challenge, but I think the opportunity becomes being able to then connect that to making a lot of money doing it, right? I genuinely believe, and this is what I feel is my purpose for my daughters, is to give them the freedom of not having the obligation of making decisions specifically for money, being able to pursue their passion first, and then allowing money to come from that. So that's the other thing that I wanted to add to that.
Thank you for that.
Hey, just to quickly build on that, I could definitely identify with both Meshach and Nana. I mean, you might not be able to tell from my name, Dalton Gooding, but I am actually West African. My parents are from Sierra Leone, and shout out to all my Africans in the room, West Indians. Our families, man, it's, study your book. You have to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a technology person, whatever the case may be. And so for me, it's family and faith. So the family part of it, where my family pushed me to, try to make sure that I went into something that would help me to level up, no pun intended. But, I felt like it was incumbent upon me to build on what they struggled for, right? They came to this country in the 70s, they didn't have very much. And so when it came to making a decision on what I would do, that was a big part of my reasoning for going into financial services initially. So family and making sure that, I could build on top of what they've done and help to contribute back to my family. And I would say faith also, because and I could definitely identify with Nana, because I was a management consultant for part of my career as well. And in that role, you're going into different companies and solving for their inefficiencies. And so each time you go to a different project, you're essentially learning a new job each time. And so, I definitely had to lean on my faith for that, because, it's a little nerve wracking, but, at the same time, if I have the mindset that I can get through anything with my higher power, then, I'll be all right. So, those two things definitely contributed to who I am and moves that I've made. Whether it's being fearful, but operating as if I don't have any fear, or, trying to get into a lane where You know, at first it was financial, but now, you know, it's at a point where I have developed the mindset where, you know, I want to do something more, which is where my business, which, you know, we'll talk about later on, was born out of, you know, one of my natural desires. So for me, that's what it is.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Dalton. And one of the things I heard a lot was showing up, passion, and thinking about faith that you just spoke on. So, to our panelists, thinking of your own journey, at what point in your academic or professional life did you become intentional about showing up and being heard rather than just waiting to be called upon?
Oh. Hi, everyone. I will start with that one because I'm fairly new in my career. I've been working for 4 years now, but I definitely got that lesson early on. There were times, so a bit about my career background. I worked for General Motors for about 3.5 years, and now I'm working for JobWell. I started in December. And for me, I would notice during my time at GM and meetings, I would kind of shrink. And if anyone knows me, I'm definitely a very vocal person, very chatty. People know I love to talk. That's why recruiting is great for me. But I notice in certain spaces, in certain rooms, I would maybe wait till after the meeting to talk to somebody one-off or things like that. And in my reflections, it was just a multitude of factors of, hey, I'm probably the youngest person in this room right now. Or I know that because I'm Jalen Garrison from the East Side of Detroit, people may not, there may not be a lot of credibility with things that I say. I may have to come with the receipts versus just saying, hey, this is what it says, and somebody just taking that. So those were things that I kind of avoided and pivoted. But in my new workspace, it's just, I think, a confidence thing of just like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I know that I know what I'm talking about. If you want to have an offline discussion, we can. So just to people who are new in their career, I think what I had to do is kind of do some self-reflection of saying, I'm in this space for a reason. I may be the youngest person or the only person of color in this space for a reason. What am I going to do to be a change agent in this space? So.
I love that you said that, Jalen. One of the things that I kind of say often is whenever they pull the roll on who was in the room, I want to make sure that I said something. Like I made sure I made a statement, I made impact, because I hate for the roll to be pulled in. It's like, oh, James was there and he did nothing about this that went out. So got you, got you. Anyone else want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I'll add. I grew up pretty shy, introvert, and I would say I maybe developed more of a balance. But I never really loved attention, and I pursued different opportunities, whether it be committees within school or, like I said, a resident assistant to others. But it wasn't necessarily for the ability to use my voice. It was kind of like that just had to happen to effectively do those roles. But yeah, I was pursuing it for other reasons. But those opportunities allowed me to get more comfortable being more outgoing. Again, just simply out of necessity, whether you have to stand on stage and introduce speakers, or you have to connect with residents and sort of broader communication. So those things were really helpful for me. So I would say in college is where that really started. And then when I entered into my my professional career, I went through a rotational program in General Electric in operations. And in those instances, I'm 22, 23 years old and leading folks that are old enough to be my grandparents and parents in many instances. And so what was great about it was I had to, you couldn't really make them do anything. One, you weren't going to be there forever, right? And they've seen folks kind of come and go, so they could sort of wait you out. But to be effective, you really had to kind of connect with them. You had to listen, you had to understand and build genuine relationships. And so, I went through that cycle after cycle, and it reminded me similar of, Dalton and Nana's both experience around consulting. I would challenge that in those situations as well as my own. Just simply being in different environments and recognizing that you have to kind of connect with people and process on a regular basis. You sort of, at least for me, I developed my voice over time. And the cool thing about it is, a year later, 2 years later, 6 months later, depending on when that rotation's over, you have an opportunity to kind of reflect and do it again. So you just get a lot of practice at sort of hit and reset and doing some things more and more effective. And so that was a little bit of my experience, I guess.
Got it. Got it. Give yourself time. I don't think any of us appeared the way we are now. Um, automatically. We grew into this. It took some time. So thinking about some of the things that I've just heard, and maybe leading off with Dalton, but hearing from everyone, what are some of the factors or characteristics or circumstances that seem to lead some professionals to be less confident or intentional about their career, or more complacent in their current role versus others?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think that some of the things that lead people to be less confident are the lies that we tell ourselves, that we're not good enough, that, you know, because we're not getting called upon for whatever opportunities, that we're not worthy, you know, or just by being Black or minority, that, you know, we don't deserve to be in a room. All of those lies that we tell ourselves make us believe that, make us not confident, right? And so you can't believe the lie, right? You do deserve to be there. You are enough, and you can do anything anyone else in the room can do, and you can do it even better as long as you work hard at it. I'm not saying to go in there not knowing anything. You definitely got to know your stuff, but you should definitely go in with the power of feeling that you can accomplish anything and that your voice matters. In terms of things that can help you to be more confident, I would say your upbringing, and knowledge, right? So some people aren't taught confidence. I wasn't taught confidence. I was also an introvert. I got tired of kind of falling under the radar, and so I decided to start popping out for stuff. And so trying to build that confidence, no matter which way it is, like Mishak was saying, through joining different organizations, taking on some of those leadership roles, and being able to level up in that way. Those are definitely characteristics that would help you to feel more confident.
Yeah,
Excellent.
so I got to piggyback on that mindset.
Please.
Woo, ow. Let's talk about mindset, because listen, it is that, like, it starts and ends with mindset.
Yeah.
Like, just flat out. And it's something that you are fully in control of and can fully dictate how it's going to go, simply by checking in with yourself and saying, how am I going to cultivate and literally talk against the internal stories that I've told myself, or my parents, or my friends, or my last manager, or or whomever, right? Like, you have to literally have these dialogues with yourself. And I think, like, it's a really important thing to actively feed your mind with what it needs to grow. So whether that is seeking out specific podcasts, like me, I'm a podcast like all day. In the morning, you're gonna catch me in the shower, you're gonna catch me part of my morning routine, kicking back a podcast, listening to something to just get my mind right. Because as soon as you enter the day, you hit that laptop or you hit that conference call, it's on, right? It's on, right? It is on. Everybody's at you. Where is this thing? Where is that thing? Where is that deliverable? So you have to figure out how do I come back, right? What are some of my values? What are some of my guiding principles? What's a mantra? Like, really identify what it is that's going to help you channel your mind to be in a really positive space.
I love that, Nana. What you upload into your mind matters. So
One.
that's so important, so important. So in 10 words or less, I want to do a round robin. So everyone give me something, because we're talking about leveling up. So give us some strategies as young professionals on what we can do to shoot our shot so that we can make the best approach, make it happen, make it work. So what do you have for us shooting our shots? Starting with Nana.
Shooting the shot. Okay, I'll give y'all two things. I think one, knowledge of self. Get super clear on who you are and what your value contribution is. Like, really know that. Be able to break that down at the drop of a hat when somebody asks you, yep, I bring this to the table. right? And be able to articulate it, define it, really, really hone in. And that requires some self-reflection, but knowledge of self is super huge. And then I think the other thing is having, you don't need a whole lot of it, but listen, depending on what you're doing, you just need a little ounce of, I don't give a boop. Because the deal is you have to have a little bit of like, I'm scared, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah,
Right? Like it's not perfect, but I'm gonna do that ish anyway.
I
Because
love that.
there's something bigger and greater on the other side. So knowledge of self and a little bit of I don't give a.
Yeah, tell us, Nana. Do it afraid. Keep going, keep going. So 10 seconds or less, Dalton, what you have for us?
So first, you got to know what type of shot you're shooting, right? Are you trying to get to network with someone, or are you looking for a job? If you're trying to network with someone, you got to be straightforward, right? Hey, this is what I do. What do you do? And then, ask them if you want to ask them if they like to connect, right? And 9 times out of 10, people will like to connect. If you're looking for a job, I would say to be a little bit more strategic. People feel put under the gun when you directly say, hey, can you find me a job? So going from a knowledge perspective, trying to gain knowledge and, ask to meet with them or stay in contact with them, you're interested or curious about whatever area they're in, and approach it from that way.
Thank you, Dalton. Jalen, what you have for us?
Okay, so I had to rework mine because a lot of the ones I had have already been said. But I just wrote down presence is key. If you don't have a presence, it's not going to be memorable. And even it doesn't have to be, hey, I'm the loudest one in the room or I'm the person who spoke the most. Just again, like Nana said, know who you are and be able to tap into that. You have to know the room in order to work the room. So what do you want? What are you looking for? Who in this room can help me achieve the goals and the things that I'm looking for?
Jalen, you better drop that gem. I felt that in my shundo. Okay, got it. All right, Meshach, what do you have for us?
Really solid and a lot of pressure to not repeat what everybody said. I'll say three things. Really seek to understand. Dalton kind of touched on this, but who are you talking to and what do they need? What do they value, right? Ultimately, and any role you get into, your job's to solve problems, right? So you need to understand what the people that you're trying to connect with need. Be authentic, and I think that really touches on a point that Nana made of like knowing yourself and really showing up authentic. And then the most important one that I think was not said is follow up. I can't tell you how many times someone has actually tried to connect with me. I have given them the information and they just didn't follow up. And I can tell you that everyone who has followed up, I did everything I could to help them. So follow up. It's one of those things that sounds good in the moment, but very, very few people follow up. And when I speak to other people, I hear the same feedback.
I love that. I love these gems. So no one asked me, but I want to give mine too. So if I would say is make sure you have a value proposition statement. That's so important. What value do you bring? And also speak what you seek until you've seen all that you've said. Your words lead you into the direction that you want to go. So navigate. So this have been our panelists and they are leveling up, but you won't miss them because they're going to be going to some breakout rooms. So thank you so much for panelists for rocking this session out with us.